From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a film review for you. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie Footloose, released in 1984, starring Kevin Bacon, Laurie Singer, and John Lithgow, directed by Herbert Ross. The synopsis is, a Chicago teen, Ren McCormick, moves to a small town where he quickly learns that dancing is banned and attracts the attention of the rebellious preacher's daughter, Ariel. Together, they help the town heal after a tragedy. The story was written by Dean Pickford, who loosely based the script on an actual 80-year-old ban on dancing that was placed on the small religious farming town of Elmore City, Oklahoma in 1978 until a group of high school teenagers challenged it. I think it's a beautiful story that appears to be about this trivial thing, dancing. But it actually has a deeper significance about tolerance and trust. The pacing. At an hour and 47 minutes, it feels too long. It has some very slow pacing and redundant moments that could have been trimmed. The challenge. The challenge in the story is the town. And the leader of this town is Reverend Shaw Moore, who incites the town to stay dedicated to their ban on smoking, drinking, and most absurd of all, dancing, and listening to any kind of modern music. The film opens up in the church where the Reverend is giving a very stirring speech to his congregation, his voice menacing and passionately announcing to them just how he has taken personal responsibility over them, as sort of a father figure. The Reverend never actually does any of the mean things that the town executes to uphold their rules, but the audience knows that he is the one responsible. In a way, he's unknowingly pulling all of the strings. He's built up as this bad guy, but he's just really a guy trying to be a hero. There is a genuine worry on his face as he fights a losing battle to stay relevant in his daughter's life. He struggles to keep her in line, and in her eyes, he seems like the ultimate villain. What I love about this is that the film wonderfully uncovers that the Reverend Moore is actually grieving his son's death that occurred a long time ago when there weren't any rules about music and dancing, and he is actually having trouble moving on from that. In many ways, the film is really all about him and what he's going through. There are other members of the town that are more villainous. Just about everyone has it out for the new guy, but Ariel's rejected ex-boyfriend Chuck Cranston and the uptight Mr. Rogers and Mrs. Eleanor Dunbar are the ones to stand out a little bit more because they actually do things that are quite villainous. When Mr. and Mrs. Dunbar burns the local library books, this opens the Reverend's eyes to the potential that he may be harming the town and not really helping them with his influence. Now, the empathy. The story sets up Ren McCormick as the main protagonist in the story. When Ren confronts the Dunbars about their rigid views on the book Slaughterhouse-Five, I knew immediately that I liked him. He's very feisty and he stands up for what he believes in, and that makes him likable right away. He tolerates it just about as much as he can, but the town makes very little effort to make him feel welcome. Luckily, he's befriended by Willard and a few others right off the bat who look out for him. there is this attraction between Ren and the Reverend's daughter, Ariel, but she is initially with Chris. She wasn't really interested in Ren until he proves that he's a tough guy, if you will. Ariel is not likable at all, and I understand that she is dealing with a lot of frustration and anger by seeking thrills so she can feel alive. Being daddy's little girl is a role that she's grown to really despise. But she's mostly unlikable because she has everything and yet she treats everyone around her like dirt. That's one of the reasons that, when Chuck hits her at the midway point at the end, that brutal scene is very uncomfortable because she punches him first, she trashes his car, all the while breaking his heart. She's very reckless. And, at first you think that Ren is going to go ballistic and seek out some kind of revenge for her. But he doesn't. He doesn't even want to get involved with any of her battles with Chuck and her beef with her father. And he even says, "You don't get to turn my fight into a screw you to your old man." And that really makes me like Ren even more. He's not going to be manipulated into someone else's plan. Now, towards the end, Ariel does become more likable and you root for them to be together. Ren is actually bringing out more humanity in her. Now, the technical aspects. Technically, this film is caught up in a really serious 1984 time warp, but it helps the story of the year itself. Everything about the clothes, music, dancing, and the spirit of the era is completely encapsulated, and I love it. And one incredible feature of the film I just absolutely love is the cinematography by Rick Waite. Wow, I just love the way he captures the grit and dirt with unique perspectives. You just feel as if you're actually there, smelling the grass, the gasoline, the sweat, and feeling the hot sun on you. It's really, there's something really alive about each scene that it feels very realistic. Now, the location and details placed into each shot was very exquisite. Now, can you believe that the writer, Dean Pickford, also co-wrote 9 of the 11 awesome hit songs in the soundtrack? Most of these songs are just iconic for the year and decade. Now, the performances. Kevin Bacon was excellent as Ren McCormick. To prepare for the role, 24-year-old Kevin Bacon actually attended the Payson, Utah High School for a day as Ren McCormick, a transfer student from Philadelphia, to research his role. And he said that his experience there was really just horrible. But, trying to just fit into a high school is very difficult. Now, there are a few scenes that you can see he's really enjoying himself on screen, and it just puts a smile on my face. Kevin did a lot of his own dancing, but Peter Tram stepped in as his stunt dancer for many of the intense acrobats and fancier moves. Many people complained about Maurice Singer's acting in this film as Ariel, but I thought she did well. Her character is not well liked, and I feel as that was part of the reason why she doesn't get enough credit for her work in the film. Now, John Lithgow was excellent as Reverend Shaw Moore. Wow, he was just so amazing in this. What an intense and mesmerizing performance. I really felt his torture, and as someone who's deliberating very intense ethical issues. It was very well done. Diane Weiss was great as Vi Moore, just a class act in this movie. Chris Penn played Willard, which would have been a pretty forgettable character if we didn't get to fall in love with him as he learns how to dance. Oddly enough, that was not in the original script. It was added because in real life, Chris couldn't dance and was taught. And by the end of the film, you can see he's doing great. Sarah Jessica Parker has a very small part in the film as Rusty, but she makes a big impression. The best part of the film. There are so many amazing parts in this film. The dancing feat in the opening credits sequence was pretty cool, setting the stage with energy. It contained many of the cast and crew. Over 150 pairs of feet were shot. I loved Ren's solo dancing scene in the warehouse along to the song Never by Moving Pictures. It had so much energy and it's one of the most iconic visuals from the film. I enjoyed the scene when Ren opens up to his mom about why he's trying to get the town to allow high school students to have a dance. It was a very sweet character moment. When Ren speaks at a town meeting, quoting passages in the Bible that Ariel has highlighted for him, I thought that was a great portion of the film. At that moment, he does what Ariel and her mother cannot do, confronting Reverend Moore with his own oppressing weapon. You also get the sense that all this time, Ariel is actually not just a pretty girl with a rebellious streak, she's also using her intellect to help solve a problem. I love the scene when the Reverend and his wife are looking on as the dance is happening. Their relationship is so sweet and you get to see what a caring guy he really is. Not the villain that you imagine that he was in the very beginning of the film. He transforms on screen for you, and it was a beautiful evolution of his character. Lastly, the best part of the film for me was the music and how amazing it was. Now the ending was very good. It's very satisfying. The Reverend gives the dance his blessing, Chuck gets his comeuppance, and the kids get to have some fun at the dance. There's something very cool about getting to see all of the kids let loose at the end of the dance, you know? They're just having fun and they're enjoying life. And something as simple as music and dancing is providing so much expression. It really gets your feet tapping and your fingers snapping, and next thing you know, you're singing along and dancing with the film. My wish list. I wish that Ariel wasn't such a brat in the beginning of the film, and she was just a little bit sweeter and a little bit nicer to her friends. I also wish that Ren's mother would have taken up for him more and at least made an impact in the story. Now my enjoyment. My enjoyment of this movie is actually more complicated than I ever imagined. When this film came out, I don't think I actually saw it in theaters, or at least I don't remember seeing it. I just remember the music videos to many of the songs from the film, you know, like Footloose and Holding Out for a Hero and Let's Hear It for the Boy. And I liked the movie, but I really wasn't super impressed by it. Just felt like it didn't really hit a chord with me, and I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it or anything. I just said, oh, that's cool. It had been several years since I saw the film, and I picked a weekend to watch the film recently, along with about 4 other films. And this was the film that really stood out to me the most. For a couple of days, I just couldn't stop thinking about how good it was story-wise. And then, I was like, wow, for so many years, I really missed out on enjoying this movie. So it was a complete surprise to me. But I have a completely new appreciation for this film. It's a great story with a lot of heart, and much more than just an 80s dance flick with great original music. My rating is an 8.9. Well, that sums up my review. I hoped you liked it. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.